This is sure to be a closet favorite for you this fall and winter. The Country Girl Bandana Cowl. Love it. The Country Girl Bandana Cowl is going to be one of your favorite go-to accessories this fall and winter season when the weather starts to cool down and you want to just throw something on and go and look super cute doing it. You're going to love this cowl. The level of this cowl, I'm going to say, is for an advanced beginner crocheter. We are working single crochet stitches, but we are working those stitches in the front loop only or the back loop only. And there is this center section where we are going to make a single crochet, chain 2 single crochet. And that might be a lot of information for an absolute beginner crocheter. However, if you are an absolute beginner crocheter and you want to give this a try, have fun. The terminology I'm using for this pattern is US terminology, so all of the stitches I am referring to in US terms. The dimensions of this cowl, the very top opening here is 13 inches in diameter or 26 inches in circumference. The bottom is 28 inches in diameter and 56 inches in circumference. So if you want to make the opening of the neck larger, feel free. If you want to make it shorter, feel free. Longer, feel free. It's going to be extremely easy to make adjustments to this cowl, and I'm super excited for you to dive in and start making it. The pattern for this Country Girl Bandana Cowl you can find in both the description section and comment section below this video. All you have to do is click on that link. It'll take you to my website, crochetwithtiffany.com, where you can purchase the pattern, print it off, and be ready to crochet with me. Now, as always, you can feel free to just watch along with the video. However, the pattern is going to be super helpful. I broke down every single row and everything you're going to need to know to make sure that you are staying on track the whole time. I even created a diagram for the pattern to really help aid you if the written instructions just aren't making sense for you, or if you just need a little extra visual guidance in this pattern. I got you covered. All right, when you're ready to go, let's go ahead and dive into what materials I used to make this Country Girl Bandana Cowl. The materials that I used for this Country Girl Bandana Cowl include a yarn that unfortunately has been discontinued. It was Yarn Bee Fireplace Comfort in the color Splash of Color. However, I do have some substitution options for you if you'd like to take a peek at those, see if you like them. This one right here is Yarn Bee Chloe in the color Pick of the Bunch. I thought that was a close match. It's also a very close feel of the fiber. The other one I thought was a really good substitution was Red Heart Roll With It Melange in the color Paparazzi. I thought this was also a very close match and could make a very similar looking cowl. So if you are concerned about fibers at all, the Fireplace Comfort, that yarn was 70% acrylic, 30% wool. Chloe Pick of the Bunch is 70% wool, 30% viscose. So if you're fine with wool, I think it feels really soft and comfortable. But if you do have a wool allergy, you're going to probably want to take a peek at the Red Heart Roll With It Melange because it is 100% acrylic. All right. Now, the amount of yarn that I used for this particular cowl was 458 yards of yarn, or 420 meters, 300 grams, or 10.6 ounces of yarn, and that's exactly how much that I used for my cowl to get my cowl the length that it is. If you want to make your cowl bigger, or you want to make it shorter, it's your cowl. Feel free to do with it however you want to do with it. But that's how much yarn that I used. All of this yarn is a size 4 weight worsted medium Aran 10-12 ply or 8 WPI sized yarn. So if you can't get your hands on this, or if you have something else in mind that you would like to use, in order to meet the dimensions that I have set for this cowl, it's going to be using a size 4 weight worsted medium Aran 10-12 ply 8 WPI sized yarn. All right, so that's it for yarn. The crochet hook that I'm using is a K or a 10.5 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. So either a K or 6.5 millimeter crochet hook here. I like using the larger crochet hook because we are using single crochet stitches and we want those single crochet stitches to be as loose and drapey as possible. We do not want anything stiff or hard because 1, it'll affect the look of the cowl, and 2, it'll affect the way it feels when you wear it. We don't want something stiff, we want something loose and drapey. All right, other materials you're going to need are a yarn needle or tapestry needle to weave in those ends, and a pair of scissors to cut the yarn. That is it. I'll have links in the description section and comment section below this video, including links to the substitution yarns I've recommended, just in case you like something you see here and would like to get your hands on it. Just click the link right next to it, purchase it, and have it shipped directly to you out of ease and convenience. Otherwise, if you have in mind something in your stash or a specific yarn that you would like to use for this project, go ahead and get that ready, and let's dive right into actually making the Country Girl Bandana Cowl. Let's begin. When it comes to the structure of this bandana cowl, we are actually going to make a giant V shape. We're going to start with a foundation row chain of however long you're going to want the hole or the circumference around the closest around your neck to be. Now for me, I'm going to go ahead and chain 82 chains because for me, it left me with a circumference of about 13 inches in diameter or 26 inches in circumference around my neck, and that was the smallest part, and that's what I liked. If you would like your neck to be smaller, the hole around your neck to be smaller or larger, there is no stitch count requirement for this particular project, so feel free to chain as many as you want. Just make sure that the number of chains that you chain is divisible by 2. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with a tail long enough for me to weave in my end at the end of the project, create my slip knot, attach my crochet hook, ready to go. All right, so I'm chaining 82. Feel free to chain either 82 also or however many that you would prefer. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 81, 82. All right, so that's it for our foundation row chain. For row 1, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from our crochet hook. So looking at our V stitches, we got 1, 2, single crochet. And then all we're doing for row 1 is making 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way across, really just setting up that foundation row for our cowl, and that's it. So if you would ideally like to work up a foundation row or a chainless foundation row with a single crochet stitch, you absolutely can. Feel free to do that in this project. But for me, I really like being able to see the chains and see the structure first. All right, so finish row 1. I will meet you at the end of row 1 to show you what we do different for row 2. All right, last stitch here. Great. Now, just to be clear for all of you beginners, we will have 1 less stitch in row 1 than we did in our foundation row chain. So I started with 82 chains. I will now have 81 stitches in row 1. I just want to be very clear with that. That way you know how many stitches to predict in row 1. Row 2, we're going to chain 1. Turn our work. Now there's a couple new things happening with row 2. First thing is we are going to be making 1 single crochet stitch in the front loop only of almost every single stitch in row 2. So how I like to attack my front loop only is I will look for the first stitch for any stitch, and I will find the V stitch at the top. If you turn your work, see the first stitch, turn it, you'll see your V stitches here. I want to take the claw of my crochet hook. I want to come and just grab that front loop only, leaving behind that back loop only. And then I will continue making my single crochet stitch. Some people like to come to the top of their V stitches. They like to place their crochet hook in the V stitch itself and then just go underneath the front loop, leaving behind the back loop. I have come to find that if you work the front loop only stitch this way, the pattern looks slightly different than if you grab at it from the front, because the yarn is now going from the center of the crochet hook out, opposed to if you come here, then the yarn is coming from the outside of the crochet hook or the stitch in. Okay, so that's the first thing. We are making front loop only single crochet stitches in our stitches. We're only going to work 1 front loop only single crochet stitch in the first 40 stitches. Okay, we got to cut this in half so we can create that point and that V shape of our bandana cowl. So count to 40 and then pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 39, and 40. Great, so we're pausing at 40. What you may notice is that your work is curling a bit. It's doing a little curly cue on both sides. Just do your best when working the stitches to flatten them out and working the same side as you go, and not work into the spiral by twisting yourself. Just try to keep everything flat as you're working it, okay? And that spiral will disappear as the work grows and flattens out. Okay, in stitch number 41, we are going to make a regular single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and a regular single crochet, all in that same stitch space. And then continue on making 1 single crochet in the front loop only in the last 40 stitch spaces. This way we will have complete symmetry in everything that we are doing. So there should be 40 stitches working up to the center, and then the center where we will single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then 40 stitches leading away from the center. Symmetry. Okay, go ahead and finish off row 2, and we will meet at the end of row 2 to show you what we do different for row 3. 39 and 40. Great. Now when we come to the very end of a row, or even working the beginning, we're not increasing. We're going to stop with that stitch. Okay? To get to row 3, we will chain 1. Turn our work. Now for row 3, we are going to make a single crochet stitch in the back loop only of the first 41 stitches. So we're going to add 1 stitch to that count that we had in row 2. So let's go ahead and work 1 single crochet, back loop only. And how I do that is I'll come to the top of the work, find the stitch. So here's stitch 1. Come to the top where I can see the V. Take my crochet hook, place it inside the V, and only go into the back loop only, or under the back loop only, leaving the front loop behind. And then make my single crochet stitch. So again, finding that V stitch, back loop only, and single crochet. Okay, so there's 3. We want 41 and then pause. 4, 5, 39, 40, and you'll notice that stitch number 41 actually will be on top of that single crochet from that middle single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So make sure you count so we make sure that we get there. So 41, perfect. Next we will bump into that chain 2. In that chain 2 section, we want to make a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Regular single crochet right into those, right over those 2 chains, then chain 2, and then single crochet. Perfect. Nothing special with those. They always stay just a regular single crochet stitch. All right, and then on the other side, we will continue making 1 single crochet stitch in the back loop only for the last 41 stitches. Now, what I do highly recommend, and this is a big recommendation, is that you do count the number of stitches that are in your first 4 or 5 rows, because it is very easy to accidentally skip that stitch that is right after that single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then all of a sudden you're going, and one side of your cowl will be shorter than the other side, and there's no symmetry, and it looks off, and when we go to join it, it's going to have this weird crooked point, and it's not you're not going to be happy with it. Okay, so just do me a big favor, do yourself a really big favor, and make sure you count the number of stitches are in the first 5 rows, just so that way you can make sure, okay, I have 41 on this side, I did my middle, 41 on this side. All right, I'll meet you at the end of row 3. And then we'll continue on. 40 and 41. Great. Now remember, when we come to the very end of every row, we do not increase anything. We just let it be a 1-to-1 stitch ratio for the whole project, both sides. Great. Now when it comes to the rest of this cowl, guys, we are just repeating row 2 and row 3 over and over and over again to reach the exact length of the cowl that you want. Every single row, though, is going to grow by 1 stitch every single row. So I started with 40 stitches before I got to the middle. Next row I did 41 stitches before I got to the middle. Next row I'm going to do 42 stitches before I get to the middle. A couple fun and easy tricks to remember when it comes to this project. One, it's a 1-to-1 stitch ratio, so you don't technically need to count the number of stitches that are in every row. You can just make 1 stitch all the way to the center, find that chain 2, and in the chain 2 make a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then make 1 stitch in every stitch on the other side to create that symmetry, that triangle that we are trying to achieve here for the bandana cowl. Second little trick, if you look at the work and you're on the side of the work that has all the texture, the bumps, you know that you need to be making single crochets in the back loop only. If you're looking at the work and everything is very smooth, you know that you need to be making single crochet stitches in the front loop only. So that's a visual cue for you, so that way you don't have to worry, what row am I on? Is it even? Is it odd? Do I need to do front loops? Do I need to do back loops? Just look at the work. If it's smooth, do front loops. If it's textured, do back loops. Okay, and again, yeah, 1-to-1 stitch ratio, so just work 1 stitch all the way up to that chain 2, then work the single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then 1 stitch on the other side. Again, every now and then count the stitches in your row. Please, please, please do not skip this, because it is something that I even ran into when creating this pattern. When I was just going, I was like, oh, this is easy. I don't even need to count stitches. And I went, and then all of a sudden I noticed that one side had, say, for example, 52 stitches up to the chain 2. And then I went to the other side and it had only 51. And I'm like, why are they not even? Why are they not the same? They're supposed to be the same. What happened? And I had to backtrack 4 rows to get to the row where I made a mistake. Because again, like I mentioned, it was right there, right next to the single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. I skipped that next stitch. I just continued on without thinking, and I lost a stitch space. And it made one side of my cowl shorter than the other side. And again, that messes with everything, because when we join, your point is going to be crooked, and you don't want that. Okay, so please, every now and then, count the number of stitches leading up to the chain 2, and make sure it's the same count as the number of stitches leading away from the chain 2. All right. Okay, so we are actually going to continue repeating row 2, row 3 to the end of row. I went all the way to row 50 because I wanted a significantly long cowl. That's what I wanted. Now I did create a pattern for this, and I broke down every single row showing you how many stitches should be on each side for every single row. That way, if you don't want to worry about what row am I on, you can count how many stitches are up to that chain 2, and then look at the pattern and be like, oh, I'm at this row, I have this many more rows to do. It makes things so much easier. So yeah, I broke down all 50 rows for you to help you out. And so if you want to get the pattern, I recommend that. I also went ahead and created a diagram in the pattern to create even more assistance for you. So that way, if you're struggling to really read the pattern and understand what's happening, I did the whole chart thing for you to help you out. All right, go ahead, continue on. I will meet you at the end of row 50. It's gonna be a while. Works up pretty quickly. End of row 50, we will join the sides together and finish off our actual cowl. All right, so row 4, chain 1, turning work. Okay, it's an even row, but it's also flat on this side. So I know I'm working single crochets in the front loop only. We just finished row 50. Congratulations, great job making it all the way to this point. Now some things I want to make sure that you identify that you're looking at, the same thing that I'm looking at here. Each side of the cowl should be flat like a blanket. Then you should have, don't fall, that V point that we have created here. And then the other side should also be straight like a blanket. So it's looking a bit like this, where these are straight. So it's almost like this is a two top points. You know what I mean? That's exactly what we want, because now we're going to go ahead and join these together and actually create the cowl part of this bandana cowl. So I want you to fold this cowl in half. Don't like leave the loop on your crochet hook. We have not tied anything off. Do not tie anything off. I want you to take your cowl and I want you to fold it inside out. So the smooth side, the flat side, those front loop only side is facing outward. And I want you to just fold it completely in half. Line everything up. Awesome. And you are left with this shape right here. Has this really nice arc. So it looks like this. Okay. We are going to take our crochet hook, because I want the side with the actual loop facing or on top. Line everything up. If you would like to use stitch markers, you absolutely can, just to make sure this doesn't shift on you as we are joining this side together. Now, when it comes to joining this side together, all I'm going to be doing is slip stitching it closed. I'm going to insert my crochet hook into the same stitch that I just made a single crochet stitch in to finish off that top 50th row. I'm going to come to the other side, find the aligning stitch, go all the way through, yarn over, pull through all, and then pull through that loop on my crochet hook, leaving me with just one loop on my crochet hook for that slip stitch. Finding the next row down and all the way through. Great. Now, if you have stitch markers strategically placed, like a lot of them, all the way down, so that way nothing shifts, or even if you can just make sure that you keep checking, aligning, pinching, and then going, and then stopping, aligning, checking, going, you can just not even look at what row you are connecting. Just make sure everything is aligned and that you're making your way through both sides of the work to join. Okay, go ahead and continue down this side, and I will meet you at the very end where we will be ready to tie off and weave in our ends. So exciting, we're almost done. I hope you're having so much fun. Isn't it beautiful? All right, last stitch here. Slip stitch. Awesome. Now, before we tie off, guys, super important, go ahead and come and insert your hands and stretch out that join. Double check to make sure there wasn't a spot where you accidentally only picked up the top stitch but not the bottom stitch, because that does happen and it leaves you with a big hole, which can lead to ripping, damaging of the cowl, or it can just be embarrassing that all of a sudden there's this big hole and you're like, oh no. So, but now's the time to fix it, because now you can easily go back, close up that hole before you tie off your work. Okay, so I'm good. I didn't have any holes. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my scissors, cutting a tail long enough for me to weave in my ends. And for those of you who are not sure about that, that's about 6 inches. Okay, so yarn over, pull that tail through the loop on your crochet hook and pull tight for a tie off. And now we're ready to just weave in our ends. How I weave in my ends, I'm gonna do one with you. What I like to do is go along where I just joined and I will insert my yarn needle into the stitches, into the work, and I'll even try to go between stitches and just kind of really have those fibers cling to each other. That's the biggest part. You don't want to just go up and down stitches because then nothing's clinging, nothing's holding, nothing is making sure it stays put. So if you can, every now and then go through a yarn, and then those fibers will cling to each other and everything is much more likely to hold firm, especially after you launder this and all those fibers really cling to each other. Yeah. But what I really like to do, what works best for me, is after I go one direction about halfway or so with my yarn, then I'll go backwards. So I'll find where my yarn is coming out of. I'll hop over that so I'm not just undoing everything that I just did. So go over that stitch, then come back and weave in, making sure I go through some yarn. And all the way out, taking my scissors, cutting that flush. There's one. You can go ahead and weave in the second one. Then take your cowl, flip it inside right. Hopefully this section is wide enough for you. Kind of play with it a little. That's it. I hope you like it. All right, guys, what did you think of the Country Girl Bandana Cowl? Let me know in the comment section below your experience, if you had any questions, or if you're just really excited to get started. If you like this video, please push that thumbs up button. It's like a big high five and great feedback for me. If you haven't yet already, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my upcoming videos. I have some really cool projects coming out and you're not gonna wanna miss out. If you'd like to support my channel or just want a little bit more out of my channel, check out my membership program. I have a couple different levels there and I think you'd really like it. I'd love for you to join. If you had fun watching this video, let's keep it going. Watch these videos here, which are more cowl and scarf videos I've created just for you, or check out this video right here, which is a recommended video for you to watch. Thank you so much for crocheting with me, guys. I'll see you with the next one. Bye.